What's up, guys? Welcome to our AFC and NFC West preview. Starting off with the AFC this time. Had to wear the Germany jersey because we're covering the West. West for Germany. Shout out capitalism. But AFC West, Kansas City, obviously the reigning defending Super Bowl champions back-to-back. Only 11-6 last year, which is a down year for them, but they were themselves in the playoffs. Came out and won. No coaching changes. Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo, and obviously Andy Reid. Now their over under for this year for wins is 11.5. They added Marquise Brown, Irv Smith Jr., and Carson Wentz, not the Michigan State player, but the quarterback from the Eagles. They lost quite a lot of important pieces though. L'Jarius Sneed, Donovan Smith, Willie Gay, and Marcus Valdes-Scantling. They drafted Xavier Worthy, and more notably almost than Xavier Worthy, Kingsley Suamataia. And why do I say more notably? Because he's their starting left tackle. He is protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side. He is protecting the best player in the NFL. Can he do it as a rookie against, just in the AFC West alone, you got Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. There are some very, very good edge rushers that he's going to have to play against. He plays some really good defenses too, Baltimore and Cincinnati, right off the bat to start his career. Can he do it? Because that's what this season hinges on for them. The only time that we have seen Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense look really, really bad was in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. Not because of anything that Tampa Bay did, but because they lost both their starting tackles. So that's what it comes down to. Can they protect them? Can they be better than last year? Because they were pretty trash last year. Javon Taylor kept false starting, and Donovan Smith wasn't really good. So, Javon Taylor, can you learn how to play your position well this year? And Kingsley, can we have a king of a rookie year? That was an awful pun. Let's just ignore that. On top of that, how much more explosive is this offense going to be with the additions of Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy? That's just speed on speed on speed. You lose MVS, but you bring back Juju. And this offense looks stacked right now, weaponry-wise. You have Pacheco. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire still. That was a first-round pick. I think he's starting off the season on a list. I forget which one, but he's starting off the season on the list. And then receiving-wise, you still got Kelsey. You add Irv Smith Jr., who's pretty underrated as your second tight end. And receiver-wise, Rashee Rice, who has not been suspended for this season, Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, couple other pieces. This is a really, really good offense. So once again, it hinges on the offensive line protecting Patrick Mahomes. Defensively, you lose Sneed, you lose Willie Gay. Those are two important starters from a defense that carried this team last year, surprisingly so. So can you, with the young guys like Leo Chenal, can you replace the production and play of those guys and still remain a good defense? And I think they can, because they have the best defensive coordinator in the 21st century in Steve Spagnuolo. So that's why I think this team is going to hammer the over on their wins. They're going to go 14-3, and I sincerely believe that they're going to become the first team in 2 decades to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers. I got that right. Let's go. 5-12 last year. Fired everybody. Telesco's gone as GM, and Brandon Staley's gone as head coach. You hire Jim Harbaugh. He brings in Greg Roman, his guy, and Jesse Winter, the Michigan defensive coordinator. Pretty good coaching, honestly. Now, Greg Roman is not good at designing passing offenses, so that remains to be seen, especially when you have Herbert. But you add Will Dissly, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Poona Ford. That's a defensive lineman, a fairly non-athletic tight end, and 2 ground and pound running backs. You lose Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and Michael Davis, who was your starting corner last year. Those are their staples for the last 5 years of the Chargers, were Eckler, Keenan, and Mike Williams on offense alongside Herbert, Rivers, whoever the quarterback was. And you draft Joe Alt, Junior Colson, Michigan guy, and most importantly, Ladd McConkey. So for this team, it comes down to, are they going to be somewhat competent on offense? Are they going to be able to throw the ball? Will Herbert have enough people to throw the ball too? Because some days you're like, okay, Josh Palmer's been pretty decent. He hasn't been bad his career. And someone like Lad McConkey is a great guy to have in your second round pick, and you have a couple pieces here and there, but then you're like, Herbert's going from Keenan Allen, Mike Williams to this. So it's not the most ideal thing. You still have Quentin Johnston. Now, they've obviously talked him up because they need to, but that remains to be seen if he can bounce back from an awful rookie year. So if he bounces back, this can be a really encouraging receiving core youth-wise with McConkey and Johnston. But that remains to be seen. Defensively, Derwin James was trash last year. He did not play very well last year. And he's 28. He's still in his athletic prime. Can he bounce back? Can he have a good season in the Jesse Minter defense as most likely the linchpin? And then you got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack as your edge rushers. Khalil Mack was great last year. Can he keep it going at his age? Joey Bosa, can he keep it going at his age and after all the injuries? Because they chose the edge rushers over the receivers, so they have to prove that it was worth it. And most importantly this season for the LA Chargers, how is the culture and vibe and everything surrounding the team going to feel at the end of this year? Because I don't think wins and losses are as important this year as Harbaugh getting in there and turning shit around inside the locker room and everything else. This team blew a 27-point lead in the playoffs a year and a half ago. Like, they gotta figure this shit out. So their over-under is 8.5 wins. I have them going 9-8, so 1 win over that. And I think it'll be like an encouraging first season for the Harbaugh era, but I don't think they'll be like insanely good right off the bat. Broncos, 8-9 last year. No new coaches, no coaching changes. Obviously, Russell Wilson is gone. They added John Franklin Myers, Josh Reynolds, Levi Wallace, Matt Pert. They lost a lot of pieces, in my opinion. Justin Simmons was probably your best defensive player. Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick just got cut a few days ago. Lloyd Cushenberry, your starting center, and Josie Jewell, your starting middle linebacker, who's very underrated, in my opinion. You also drafted the Oregon guys, Bo Nix and Troy Franklin. In preseason, Bo Nix looked phenomenal. Bo Nix looked like the perfect embodiment of a Sean Payton quarterback, and he looked great in the preseason. How is he going to look as a starter against more complex NFL defenses when coordinators are trying everything they can to mess with him? That is, once again, number one question. He'll have decent weapons to throw to. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, his guy Troy Franklin from Oregon. Like, there'll be decent options to throw to. You have Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin as your running backs. That's not that bad either. Defensively, I looked at their defensive line. No one, stands out on their defensive line in Denver right now. Who's going to generate pressure on this team? Will it be Franklin Myers? Who else could it possibly be? What are you going to do there? And Pat Surtain, your cornerstone on defense now with Simmons gone. How is he going to bounce back after not the best year last year? How is he going to bounce back in this defense, and how is he going to look right now? Because I think that's the most important thing is you see development from all the young guys. And lastly, in the AFC West, the Las Vegas Raiders. They were 8-9 last year, which I think is a surprise after everything that happened. Obviously, Antonio Pierce earned his full-time role. He brings in Luke Getsy as his offensive coordinator. Keeps Patrick Graham, legend. Both of them, actually. There's a lot of Giants influence in this building right now. Roster-wise, you add Gardner Minshew, Christian Wilkins, Cody Whitehair, and Alexander Madison, to name a few. You lose Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, Jermaine Illuminor, and Amik Robertson. And they drafted Brock Bowers and Jackson Power Johnson. Over under 6.5. I think they're going to go 6-11, so just one win below their over under. And a couple questions. Gardner Minshew's a starter, which, we all know what you expect, what you get from Gardner Minshew football at this point in time. There's some electric plays, there are some downright awful plays, and there's some in the middle. So, are they going to rely on Gardner Minshew, the known commodity, or are they going to give Aiden O'Connell a chance? Because Aiden O'Connell, after playing last season in front of these guys, and then not getting the starting job and not beating out Gardner Minshew, that's not the best look for you. So, is there any hope for Aiden O'Connell? And also, if you go on PFF, if you look at Warren Sharp's prediction manual book, where the hell is Tyree Wilson, your first-round pick from last year? He's not projected to start. There's been no hype or anything from him on national media or Twitter that I've seen personally. What is happening with him? He was drafted in the top 10. Like, what are you doing over there with Tyree Wilson, and what's going to happen with him? And lastly, and this is probably the most important thing as a team building point for this team, because they're in such a weird spot where they were really good football-wise, culture-wise, everything when Antonio Pierce took over. Is Davante Adams going to last on this football team before the trade deadline is over? Or is he going to the Jets with his boy Aaron, or anywhere else that wants him? Because arguably a lot of teams could trade for him. The same teams that wanted Brandon Ayuk could go get Davante Adams. Steelers, Commanders, Patriots, Browns. Any of them. And probably more teams because it's Davante Adams. If I'm him, and I'm 31, 32 years old, I don't know exactly how old he is. I only got a couple more years left in my prime. I'm still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Do I really want to be catching passes from Gardner Minshew? Or do I want to take this opportunity and go to a good team? I think that's their biggest question. I think the Raiders should be inclined to trade him after a couple games. They're not Super Bowl contenders. They're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Patrick Mahomes is in their division. Go get a second or third round pick for Davante and start putting together a lot of assets that you can use in team building for the future. That was a coffee break sponsored by me. I don't know. That was Moving on to the NFC West. San Francisco 49ers, coming off their second Super Bowl loss to the same team in the last 6 years. 12-5 season, pretty damn good. Brock Purdy looked great last season. They have a new defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen. Over-under is at 11.5 wins. Let's see if you get there. They added Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, Devondre Campbell, and Josh Dobbs this offseason, to name a few. Now, Leonard Floyd has been underrated since shedding the bust label. Yetur Gross-Matos didn't really have the best career in Carolina, but hey, you're in San Francisco, you're on a defensive line with studs, you should produce. Devondre Campbell, pretty good linebacker. They lose Javon Kinlaw, Chase Young, Sam Darnold, Cleveland Farrell, and Oren Burks. So it was important for them to get some good value signings on the defensive line to match that production, if not uplift it, because Chase Young wasn't the best player when he got there. And they drafted Ricky Pearsall. So happy that he's fine. Obviously, he's not going to be a factor on the football field for the next few weeks because of the incident that happened this weekend. But obviously, bigger than football, everything else, very understandable. And Renardo Green at corner. The number one question for the San Francisco 49ers. Is Trent Williams going to be on the field on Monday against the New York Jets? Because if he is, then this team can go to the Super Bowl again. If Trent Williams isn't playing, and he's proven that he's fine with missing games in the past, I don't think this team is doing anything. Because, and this isn't a shot at Brock, Shanahan, anybody else, Trent Williams is the only good offensive lineman that this team has. They paid Colton McKivitz. Has anybody that's not a footballer heard about Colton McKivitz before? They have no one. John Halapio or Jonathan Feliciano starting at guard for them. That's the level of offensive line play that they have outside of Trent Williams. They need him. Not just because he can go into motion and absolutely bulldoze people, but because he's legitimately the only saving grace on that offensive line. And then, on top of that, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, Nick Bosa. These guys have been through 2 Super Bowl losses now. Is there going to be a Super Bowl hangover like what we saw with the Eagles, where frustrations start to boil over finally? Or are the vibes going to continue? Obviously, those guys are all, vibey guys. Plus, it's Nick Bosa in an election year. We can't forget that. He has to ball out election year for him. Last election year, he was really good. So that's what it comes down to. Trent Williams is the linchpin for this offense and for this football team. It comes down to him. If he's walking out with Deebo Samuel with the jukebox, we're good. If he's not, the 49ers are in a massive amount of trouble. And on top of that, imagining that Trent Williams plays, how much better is Brock Purdy going to get this year? Because he got a lot better from his rookie year to his second year. So what's the jump going to be this year? Because I think he still has the potential to be better. So their over-under is set at 11.5 wins. I have them going 12-5, but finishing second in this division. And I'll tell you why right now. The Los Angeles Rams, 10-7 last year, when everybody thought that they'd have a top 10 pick, McVay would retire, Stafford would retire, Aaron Donald would retire. Now, that did end up happening, which was a shock to everybody, but you know what I mean. The vibes are so low on the Rams going into last season. Now, they made it to the playoffs, 10-7, lost in the wild card round to the Lions. Poetic justice, script writing, everything involved in that story. Now, Chris Shula is the defensive coordinator after Raheem Morris takes a job in Atlanta. Their over-under set at 8.5 wins. They add Jonah Jackson, Cameron Curl, Darius Williams, and Trey White. So, really good names, at least, in the secondary. Now, Trey White, obviously, with the injuries and everything, has been a shell of his former self the last few years. If he can rebound, that is an elite corner. Same with Darius Williams, not an elite guy, but he's a pretty good corner. And I've always liked Cam Curl. Now, they lose Jordan Fuller, who I guess is their Cam Curl. Cam Curl replaces him. Ernest Jones just got traded, which is a bit of a shock. And obviously, Aaron Donald retired. Now, you draft Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, and Blake Corum. Now, Blake Corum's interesting because we found out that Kyron Williams might be returning punts, which seems a little dumb in my opinion, but you do you, Sean McVay. So Blake Corum could be a huge factor this year for them. The 2 Florida State linemen, alongside the guys that they drafted last year, they're trusted with replacing Aaron Donald's production and impact on this team as a group. Now, it's not going to be him. Everybody else's job just got a lot harder because, instead of 2 guys blocking 3 people, because Aaron Donald is getting triple teamed on every play, they're all going to have to win their matchups now. But I think that's possible because the talent is there. Like, we saw the talent there last season. I'm blanking on his name. I'm about to Google it. I'm about to open PFF and see who the Rams defensive lineman is, who should have won Rookie of the Year last year, in my humble opinion. LA Rams lineup. Kobe Turner. Yeah. My boy out here singing the national anthem like an angel. And he put up... PFF is weird with stats, but he had a great season last year. So, that guy, Braden Fisk, was great last season at Florida State. Obviously, Jared Verse was a dog. Like, can they match that production? I think that they can figure out a way to scheme it together and do it. On top of that, who is playing linebacker for you now? Like, who is actually playing linebacker for you right now after you trade away Ernest Jones, who I thought was really good? I really wanted Giants to get him when the rumors started. But I think that's a big question. And wide receiver 3, obviously you got Puka, you got Cooper Kupp. You have some older options that have been with the team before, have come back, things like that. Jordan Whittington, rookie. I don't know. I'm just going to put that name out there into the universe because I think he can do good, and he's on a few of my fantasy benches. But in a shock, I have the LA Rams going 12-5, and by virtue of a tiebreaker, beating the San Francisco 49ers for the division. I think they're going to be really, really good this season, and I quite frankly think that Matthew Stafford is going to be a dark horse MVP candidate. The Seattle Seahawks. 9-8. Pete Carroll's gone, which is a shocking move. Like, I feel like we all figured that Bill Belichick's time was up in New England. Like, it had gotten stale. Like, him and the Krafts weren't getting along, all of that. But I don't think anybody foresaw Pete Carroll getting fired. So you bring in Mike McDonald, the defensive genius from Baltimore. You bring in Ryan Grubb from the University of Washington as your offensive coordinator. Bill Bell, you got people all over the place giving advice in Washington, not Seattle Seahawks. But you add Jerome Baker, George Fant, and Rayshon Jenkins, and Sam Howell. You lose Jamal Adams, Damian Lewis, Quandre Diggs, Jordan Brooks, and Drew Lock. Drew Lock, Sam Howell. Y'all can debate that. Draft-wise, they got Byron Murphy and Christian Haynes. Their over-under is set at 7.5 wins, and I don't think they're going to get close, unfortunately. Defensively, I think this team is going to be really great because Jerome Baker, Tyrell Dodson, pretty good linebackers. I think replacing Jerome Baker or replacing Jordan Brooks with Jerome Baker was smart. I think Jordan Brooks is the better player, but Jerome Baker is not a bad player by any stretch of the imaginations. Dodson was great last year. Rayshon Jenkins is a decent safety. The corners, obviously, all the young corners. You got Weatherspoon and Tariq Woolen. And you have Jordan Love at safety, who I think, or not Jordan Love, Julius Love at safety. Underrated safety, underrated defensive player, an absolute dog. I think the defense is going to be good, and I think that a first-round pick, Byron Murphy, is going to be a stud right off the bat. I think he's going to be very, very good. However, why I think this team is going to be surprisingly bad. Are we sure that Geno Smith is, a top 15, top 13, top 14 quarterback? Let me put it this way. Do we think Geno Smith is closer to Jared Goff or Daniel Jones? And I think he's closer to Daniel Jones. And he doesn't even have that athletic upside. I think Sam Howell is going to play some football this season for them. That's why they went out and traded for him. And I don't think Sam Howell was very good last season either. Now, their offensive line is decent. Got to see what happens with Abe Lucas health-wise. But I have this team going 3-14, which is a little low. I was shocked by it too. If y'all are wondering where I'm basing these record predictions out of, I predicted every single game. It's on YouTube right now. It's on the channel. So 3-14 through that. Now that's without prior planning and really thinking it through. It's spur of the moment. But I think that's the best way to not overthink it and get an actual opinion. So I have them going 3-14. I don't think Geno Smith is going to be good. I think Geno Smith is going to hold this team back. And next year they're going to draft a quarterback, whether it be Shador or Carson Beck or anybody else, and then this team is really going to take off. And the last team that we're going to talk about tonight, the Arizona Cardinals. 4-13 last year, 4th overall pick, no coaching changes. And I think they did better than people thought that they would. They beat the Eagles and the Cowboys. They almost beat the Giants. I think they did better than people thought they would. They played well. They were competitive. Jonathan Gannon and the rest of his staff did a really good job in his first year. They add Jonah Williams, Justin Jones, Sean Murphy Bunting. Lose Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, and DJ Humphries. So you draft Marvin Harrison Jr., Darius Robinson, and Trey Benson. Their over-under is 6.5 wins. I have them going 3-14, just like Seattle, but I think there's going to be encouraging signs. Defensively, I don't think this team is going to be very good. I don't really see a lot of talent out there. Darius Robinson's an older rookie, but he's going to be good in my opinion. He was really good at Missouri. But I don't think this defense is going to be really good. However, I think offensively this team is going to be phenomenal. James Conner is still a good running back. You got Kyler Murray, who's going to be fully healthy. He's not coming right off an injury. And you add in Marvin Harrison Jr. If Kyler plays at a 2020 level, maybe they win 6 games. If Kyler plays decent, I think 3-4 wins is the perfect range for this team. Just because of how they are defensively. Once again, a guy like Will Johnson from Michigan would look great in this team if they get a top 5 pick again. And lastly, I think the most fun thing for the Cardinals this season is just watch Marvin Harrison Jr. ball out. He's going to want to show people up because of all the combine talk, the workouts, and then the whole fanatic situation. He's going to want to show people up. So I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a phenomenal season. I think him and Neighbors, one of them is going to break the record for targets that a rookie gets at the receiver position. And I can't wait to see how that goes. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.